Hi there everyone. Today I am talking to Tanuvi from the University of Auckland Law Students Society. So welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Kia ora, thanks so much for letting me be a part of this, Shelby.
No, it's great. It's always nice to hear different opinions from different people about what's going on in the legal industry. We have a one view of it, so it's nice to hear from our students about what's going on and what their perspectives are on things. So
Absolutely. And I mean, I can tell you a lot of things have been changing, so I've got a lot of opinions on the very exciting kind of things that are happening in the law.
yeah, it is. It's a changed world, I think. Is
Sure.
Nothing has been unchanged in the last 18 months, from work practices to even digital courtrooms.
Yeah.
So yeah, I suppose what's the biggest sort of change you've seen come through that you're like, wow?
I think probably the biggest change that has actually enthralled me for the last year, but has actually happened maybe a few weeks ago, was the Council of Legal Education passing a unanimous decision to involve tikanga Māori concepts and te ao Māori in our legal education. It's 2020, and to see that really important part of tikanga Māori and te ao Māori being the first law of New Zealand come through, it's just really exciting. And I think as someone who moved to this country maybe 10 or so years ago, that's something that I've seen is very unique in New Zealand, and to actually see it come through in our legal education now is really exciting. Same thing with cases like the Peter Ellis case and Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei. We're seeing tikanga discussed in our courts, and it's exciting because I think it's kind of driving New Zealand to consider, these very much long-standing cultural perceptions and cultural views, but kind of paving its way in the law. Yeah.
It's a bit of almost an appreciation of the fact that we aren't all the same. Like, we have differences, there are different cultures in this country, and we need to recognise that, and bringing it to the forefront of education and our justice system is making it a part of that, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I kind of see like moves like this as us moving closer towards honouring Te Tiriti o Waitangi. So we definitely need to build on it. This is not where it begins, because, now that we've passed a unanimous resolution saying, hey, we do want tikanga in the law, what does that mean from there? How do we really implement it? And how do we do it in a way that does honour Te Tiriti o Waitangi, that isn't tokenistic, and really does produce the kind of results that we want to see in the law? So that's the next hurdle.
What does that mean for students and yourself? Like, when people say it's going to be a part of your legal education, what do you want to see?
I want to see, we have a number of absolutely incredible Māori academics at the University of Auckland, and I want to see kind of aspects. It's a little bit hard because you think about whether it should be a standalone topic or whether it should kind of permeate every area of the law. Because I mean, you kind of hear about contract disputes in the law, and you wonder, like, is there a way we can actually think about how tikanga can illuminate this in a way where it isn't so adversarial and so kind of harsh? So honestly, I don't know how to really incorporate it, but I'm pretty open to kind of talking about anything. But I think the first step would be to lift up our incredible Māori academics and say, hey, what do you think? To go consult with communities and say, with iwi Māori and hapu, and say, what does that look like for you in your community? And then, us as the people who are involved in the law, we kind of hear out what they have to say in the community and see how we can kind of bring that forward. So I think what that means for students is that, you should, start learning te reo Māori, you should start caring about it, you should start watching, Māori news like Te Karere and just really great organizations like that. I guess to kind of become acquainted with this really important development and see in whatever capacity how you can support it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting one. There's been so many things over the last year and a half that presented challenges to the industry, and some that present real opportunities. And I think this is one of those ones that's a real opportunity to, should be one of the first industries to really make it just a part of everyday practice. It's not something that is a tack on or a standalone subject, but it is an ingrained part of what we do every day. So hopefully the legal profession can take charge and really show the world really how it's done. So.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Are there any other sort of opportunities and challenges that you've seen for the legal profession that are sort of the students are feeling and talking about? And
yeah, absolutely. I think there's you have the kind of black letter law changes where you have, things like the RMA changing in such a seismic time. And it was an absolute behemoth of a piece of legislation. So to kind of see it completely transformed is, I'm sure, scary and exciting, and there's going to be a lot of teething pains, and it's funny that it's kind of all coming together in a COVID year when everything is already kind of up in the air. So that's pretty interesting. I think something else that I'm quite interested in is, obviously, like, law has always historically been quite slow changing. It's always, going all the way through the processes, years and works. But I think with COVID, what we're seeing is the rise of things like emergency powers, the rise of, like legislation really being collated quite fast and put through quite fast processes. And I guess, like, you just wonder kind of like, where's the balance now? It took far longer to get any kind of legislation through, and now we have all of these really incredible ideas, but they're also being rushed through legislation, I feel, because it's an opportune time where everything's changing to capitalize on the wave and on the tide. So that's definitely will provide some challenges.
Yeah, it's almost like the change fatigue element of it has not. Do we need to stop, pause, and reflect on what this all means for us now, rather than just keep on rolling through it all? I suppose, especially for students like yourself, there's already so much change going on, especially when you're finishing, you're getting close to the end of your degree. It's, am I staying in the city that I'm in? What's my job going to look like? I don't know where I'm going to be in 6 months, meanwhile in 6 years. So having all this other change around you all must be a lot to take on.
Definitely. And like, just alongside, part-time work, alongside study, and it's a lot, and we do really want to keep up with it. So I kind of hope that our legal education keeps up with that as well. I'd love to learn about all the dynamic things in the law, rather than looking at not just older cases. So yeah.
And what do you think the employers in the profession can do to support you all through this transition time that you go through? Like, they're a pretty key part of what you're all going into and what you're doing. So what role do you think they play?
Absolutely. I think something that I've always been quite passionate about, like, just generally, is outreach. And that's something I've always done for high schools and primary schools. But I think that's kind of what I want to see from, law firms, legal institutions, and the public service as well. Just kind of coming like out of their way to say, hey, we do see these changes going on, and we do see it as our role as, you being the future generation coming to our organizations, to join forces with you, to understand what you think about these changes, and to see how that kind of works in everyday practice. I think, just applying the black letter law now is not going to work in such a dynamic and changing environment. So I think, the first things that I want to see kind of all of these legal key stakeholders is saying, that not applying the black letter law is what we shouldn't be doing anymore. We should be thinking about novel, exciting solutions that really take into consideration the many factors that we have to consider today. Yeah. And I think the best thing like law firms and any institutions can do is just consult, to talk with, other people in the profession. It's not just you head down doing your work, but, you're part of the legal community, and young people have so much to contribute today. I can say that as the head of an opinionated law society. you've always got really exciting, you know, motions for change coming to you, and yeah, they really keep you on your toes. So
it's young people have been given a platform to give a voice, really, and
absolutely.
you need to find a way to keep that platform going beyond your university studies, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, yeah, just giving those opportunities, and not just like during recruitment season, but just during like throughout the year. Like if your firm is working on something exciting and new in the area, like why not come 5-10 minutes at a lunchtime session and talk to students about what's going on, you know, what's happening. Yeah, yeah. Um, Definitely keen to see that in the public service as well, because obviously they're really reacting to a lot of these changes and developments. So it's a pretty dynamic space to be in right now.
I suppose the final one is any advice you'd give to other students or even practitioners that have been practicing for years. Like, what's your advice that you're giving people at the moment?
My advice is that, it sounds really corny, but it's almost like not letting kind of norms stop you from doing what you want to try and from reaching out to people. I think what's quite sad is we have a small legal community, but we still have this fear of reaching out to people. And I've always been the type to, send a cold email and say, hey, look, I'm I had no connection to anybody in this profession, but I have this interest in something you've worked on. If you can even spare 5 minutes to just have a coffee with me and have a chat. We're too isolated in this legal sphere sometimes, even though we're quite a small community. So I'd say, reach out to someone in the legal community, have a chat about what they're passionate about, where they want to see the law going. Yeah, because I think right now it's sometimes a little bit heads down. We're not being quite conscious and talking to each other about the changes we want to see in the law. Yeah, and I think that could make a pretty big difference if we just kind of, take the time out of our day and not just do our job, but dream about our job. Sounds really corny, but yeah.
Sometimes the best advice does sound kind of corny, but
yeah.
Doesn't make it any less valid.
Yeah, for sure.
It's an interesting one. I was reading an article recently where they were talking about the fact that pre-COVID, we were all quite isolated. We thought we were connected on all these amazing social media platforms, but we didn't really connect, and we didn't really reach out to someone and say, hey, what's going on? And this person said they started sending letters back and forth between their friend circle during lockdown, because everybody was always in one place. You weren't going anywhere. And people were talking about what it was like to return back to family homes, or have to give up jobs, or be working remotely, and what did that mean, and how did that change connection? So hopefully we can take some really key lessons about what connection actually is from the last year and a bit, about thinking about what that means for ourselves and new changed world.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, thank you for your time. It's
no worries.
And hopefully we get to see some of these exciting things that you're talking about happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Watch the space then.